Is it clear to you which one is which just by looking at them? I won't move because the autofocus struggles will be real. But we got the Panasonic S5 with the kit lens. Not gonna look at you. I don't know which one it is. The 20-60 at 23.5, and then the Sony A7S III 20mm 1.8 at 3.5. What is happening? Who does it better?
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
We're gonna test a bunch of different things. I got a bunch of planned scenarios for us. Right now, I've determined, we did the training video on the S5. Look at you on your left. Sony on your right. Oh, you couldn't even tell. You didn't know. Let's bring it back to the real. Yeah, that just happened. Good luck getting the Tony. Good luck, Panty Boy. You're definitely tilted. I could have planned for that. So right now we're in HLG on both, just because I determined, I took that S5 out, I thought that the HLG looked even better than the log, slightly. Just, it looked good, and I bet the autofocus will perform better in this mode. So we'll give you a chance. I got the best settings. I've determined, I think it's locked. I forget the settings. I should have wrote that down. Thankfully, me from the future is able to do that. So that's what the settings, it looked like there was no pulsing in it. It smoothed out. These are the best settings ever. So we will do a vlog test, we'll do a low light test, and we'll do the log format for both. This is just HLG for right now. Do we see a difference? And I'll do HLG outside for your loser ass. See, here's the thing. Sony, you don't have to think about it. It's so smooth and quick. You barely have to tweak a setting. Panasonic, you're in fear the whole time. You're wondering, is it gonna work? It's working? Wow, that's weird. Why is it working? Like, you question it. You question your abilities. And then the odd time, it'll just hunt, pulse, and I should be stopping it down to equal toniatures. There we are. Now, just looking on the screen, I don't know if this is gonna show up in real life, but I look much more red on the Sony, more saturated, even though I just knocked it down like -13, and we're both in manual white balance. So this is the image, this is the color science you're seeing. I try to match them as best I can in post with just highlight tweaks and whatever. So let's go into the bathroom to do a low light scenario, and then we'll go outside, test the stabilization, do a proper autofocus test, maybe some slow motion of a deer. I'll find one. I'll find the deer. It won't be squirrels, I guarantee it. We got something way more interesting for sure. Okay, the darkness is upon us. I just recorded this. I don't know what is up with Panasonic. We are at matched settings, but this one looks so much darker in the screen, and the meter says -1 2/3, and this meter is saying 0. So I was like, how is this one so much brighter? And I filmed it, I stopped it down here, and then I get it back in the computer and they're equal. So good luck exposing yourself on Panty Boy. Good luck. So we're at 1/50th of a shutter, Tony 3.5, and ISO 3200 for both. In dark room, there's just a light up here bounced off a wall, reflecting to me. How we doing on it? Let's bump it up. Okay, now we're at ISO 6400. I dimmed the light a little bit. Are any of them struggling in this very challenging autofocus situation with a human face against an insane asylum, basically? Let's move on. Okay, ISO 10,000. We're both just in standard profile. Not much tweak. There could be slight differences in contrast and sharpness. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at noise patterns and darkness, autofocus, behavior. I imagine Sony's gonna win it. This one looks so dark, but it's a lie. All right, we're at 16,000 each. I don't know where the dual gain kicks in on the Sony, because we're in standard now, and that dropped back. It probably already did it at like 10,000. So much for paying attention to that. I'm a moron. Okay, 25,600. I imagine one of them's worse. Let's zoom in on that background just to see some noise. Who's noisier? You loser. Does one struggle yet in autofocus? Pennyboy seems like he's doing all right. Penny don't need no light. He don't even care. Okay, ISO 51,200. How we looking? Sony may have shifted to a different color face. Is that a problem? Is it still autofocusing? Lost the eye. Just the face box now. It's less confident. I'm returning it. Where's my pamphlet to return how to return your items to Camera Canada? Did either ignore my head rudely? iBox is back. I think this is as high as the Pennyboy can go. Oh, you loser. What a nerd. I turned the light down, it's at 1%. And Pennyboy is a bitch. Oh, it looks like pure sunlight is shining on me. There's nothing. There's almost nothing. Sony's at 80,000 ISO now to 51,000. What a nerd. Sony could keep going all day long. This is the highest normal. No, there's a bunch of, what are all those brackets for? Sony doesn't care about anything. Wow. 256,000. Let's just turn this off. Sony doesn't even need it. Oh, let's just flex all our muscles, stopping up to 1.8. I'm in a pitch black room. How is that even possible? Just shut the door. Wow. I would have to stop down in a pitch black room at 256,000. What's Pennyboy? All I can see is the autofocus box panicking. I don't even see my outline anymore. There it is. Wow, Panasonic is autofocusing. We can go higher. There's the max, 409,000 versus 51,000. Let's lift up the Panasonic in post to match this. Do we have a winner? The face box is gone. There it is. Oh, wow. It's back. I just want to see what ISO would we need to expose there. That's probably perfect exposure. 160,000 wide open. Oh, I still see zebras. They weren't there. 128,000. Versus whatever the hell Pennyboy's doing. Something bad. Something illegal. Let's go outside. Now what's the story? Now that we're out in the great Canadian wilderness. I gotta be honest with you, looking at the footage, I think I prefer Pennyboy. I switched sides. Oh, it's the dirtiest trick in the book. You fell for it. Hey, Pennyboy. When we're talking just the HLG colors, I preferred Panasonic. What the hell is happening? The Twilight Zone is upon us. I preferred it. I think the stabilization might be better too. And the autofocus? No, you're reaching. So now we're in log on both. I wanted to see what the colors are like, and I just use, Sony has like their official LUT list for S-Log 3, and I just slap one on there, and then the odd little tweak to contrast. It's almost as good as it needs to be right there. And the Panasonic has their official Vlog to 709 LUT. So that's all we're doing. We'll see. HLG, I prefer Pennyboy. May the Panasonic Pony of Hope bless us and return to us. So, how's the stabilization? We're in digital stab on the Pennyboy just because I think it was slightly better at times. And since we're on it here, it's only fair. It's only fair, even though that's not digital. It's a weird thing. How are we doing on it? It seems like the Panasonic's a little smoother. It has advantages, even though it's like half the price. It takes a while, but you get there eventually. We're both in plus 1.7-ish exposure comp, and then I'll ruin it later. There's no sun to do this. It looks like Panasonic is exposing for me much better. I'm honestly not that impressed with the Sony A7S III's auto exposure technology. It just doesn't do great. Even though it lies to you and says, oh, there's face priority on in the menu. It does neither. It does nothing. Penny boy, how do you do it? Why did I leave you? But I crippled the Sony by stopping down to Tony 3-point loser 5. Oh yeah. Oh, the glory's upon us now. Can't do that on a penny boy. You have no wide lenses. Well, I might make a whole separate video on the lenses that suck for the L-mount alliance of fakeness. Hey, penny boy, you trying to blur out a background? I'm noticing you're struggling with it. That's unfortunate. But you're more stable and cheaper and have better color science, and you're friendlier. See, it just takes so long. I just wanted to start a clip. Here, let's go into the darkness. It's not that dark at all. The light didn't even change. Like that, what are you doing? And now. But when it gets you, it pretty much holds you. It's decent. It's probably the best Panasonic system I've seen so far. Barely. It's not even a compliment. So since we're at an education center, I figured, who has better slow motion if a math teacher was chasing you? This is a rough neighborhood. Frickin' angry math teachers and whatever animal I decided to choose in post to chase me. It was rough times. So in this final masterpiece of my cinematic adventure, I managed to include a tree next to a lawn, which leads you into a leading line area of the school that you wish you could have went to, even though it's just teaching English as a second language. Whereas the Sony allows a little more doors into your heart because I don't know how to frame objects. I'm a moron. So for those slow motion tests, all I can do is put the best foot forward of each camera. So Panasonic does full frame with autofocus 120p. So I compared that to Sony's 4K 120p with autofocus full frame. Which looked better? I wonder. And then for the maximum frame rate available, Panasonic 180 frames per second, but it crops in and manual focus. Whereas 240 frames per second with autofocus, 10-bit, full frame still. That's the fun factor. You gotta pay a couple extra coins to Camera Canada for that kind of thing. So as cinematic as this masterpiece is, I'm actually testing the dynamic range. We're in the same settings, 3.5, 2/50th of a shutter, and 640 base ISO for both log formats. That's as low as we can go. We can do extended ISO, but I don't even know what that's all about. So on the screen, I have 70% zebras set on both, and I only see them in the trees here on the Sony, but it's everywhere on the Panny Boy. So, Sony wins. Channel your inner filmmaker schoolboy roots and expose properly for once in your life. You can do it. I think we've done it on the Panny Boy. Is that a cinematic parking lot scene? Nature meets parking lot. Was the penny pulsing at all? I swear to God if you were. Versus Sony also exposing for the first time ever in a movie. I might have made it too dark. Whose cinema was yours? Now, Panasonic has an interesting potential advantage in that you can zoom into 60 mils. You could, I suppose, buy a zoom lens for the Sony, but in this situation with a 20 mil equivalent, that's all we got. So we're at 1.8 20 mil on you, 60 mil 5.6. Should be illegal. It might be. Okay, let's do one final autofocus test, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, before we start this autofocus test, it's very clear to me that the Panasonic 20-60 is not as wide as the Sony 20. I've lined up the sensor marks as best as possible, so you're not getting a true 20. It's probably a 22, or maybe the Sony's a 19, but either way, I'm gonna do 1.8 on the Sony to keep it somewhat fair, and 3.5 on the Penny Boy. Let's do it. Alright, who won that battle? So, final thoughts. I know a lot of people say, like, oh my god, I can't believe the G9 competes with the Sony. They're all very good. There's nothing wrong with the image quality of anything 2012. Like, the Samsung NX1 still competes today. That has nothing to do with anything. It's the usability factor. The fun modes. The main reason I got the Sony A7S III was because of that 240 frames per second slow-mo. It was better than the Fuji's. It just looked better, and the autofocus was more reliable in it. And it had 4K 120p if I needed it, which sometimes I do, for wildlife. But really it was the reliable autofocus after so many years of having the G85 with a manual focus lens, and then like moving on to the GH5S, improved slightly, but like the Leica lenses, they don't do it. But like every other Panasonic camera, other than the autofocus, I've been really impressed. It's an amazing camera. It's just, and the autofocus is usable. It's just, if you know what you're looking for, you'll see it often and always. Just pulsing in the background, leaping, guessing, looking in there. It's like a kid trying to peek at his Christmas presents early. And you should wait. Have some patience. Like you can see, it's just, the Sony has the polish. It's already there. Panasonic will catch up eventually. But it's just, if you want the polished spoon of silver to eat your pudding with, it's the Sony. But the Panasonic is good enough for most hobos. Wow. And the H.265 files are a lot easier to edit. You have to knock it down to 420. But it's still 10-bit. It's 72 megabits per second. Should be good enough. They're both the same weight. It's just the cost is a lot more for this rig. You're a gig. We'll see how the colors of Sony S-Log perform today versus the V-Log. But pretty much overall, in my opinion, Sony wins every category other than HLG colors. Better dynamic range, better autofocus. Stabilization, I'll give you a slight nod to the Penny Boy. It is slightly better, and that's pretty cool. That even their regular stabe is pretty much as good as Sony's active stabe. That's a good thing, and it's a lot cheaper. It's just the lenses, which I'll make a video about, they disappoint. They disappoint hard. So these are getting heavy. I'm going to leave. Who do you think won? Bunch of Penny fanboys down there. Oh, Panasonic won. Oh, I can't believe it. The G85 wins. Yeah, be real with yourself, and thanks for shopping at Camera Canada or the affiliate store of our Amazon hearts. Subscribe for more videos. See you later.